You're reporting on this. Thank you. And we've been bringing you the latest on this murder trial of the three men accused of shooting, chasing and killing Ahmaud Arbery since opening statements began. So far, we've heard from a total of 3 witnesses. I want to bring in trial attorneys Page Pate and also joining us, Marie Pereira, to break down what's been happening in the courtroom today. Page, we'll start with you, sir. What should viewers be listening for as testimony continues?
Well, obviously today the state is going to focus on the physical evidence found at the scene. They're going to call, I think, an additional law enforcement officer who was there to document initially what they saw. Obviously, Ahmaud Arbery's body, all the photographs that were taken of the scene, some of the critical measurements to show how close he was to the McMichael's truck. Also statements that were taken from both Travis and Greg McMichael, as well as William Roddy Bryan, there at the scene right after the incident happened. That is critical evidence in a case like this when the state is trying to prove the intent of the McMichaels and Mr. Bryan. What were they trying to do? Because I think their statements at the scene are not consistent with what they say their defense is now.
All right, Marie, what should viewers also be listening for?
They're going to be listening to factors that elicit emotion, because the investigator who questioned Mr. Bryant clearly he didn't have to elicit anything from him, because he put himself as someone who was assisting in the chase. He kept referring to Mr. Arbery as a tired-looking black man, a joker. He really is helping the prosecution, as Mr. Pate said, set their case. He's really helping them do that with his own statements.
Paige, talk about how important the video is to this case, because in a lot of situations you don't have this type of evidence, and as we all know, it took 2 months for this video to be released and then for those men to be arrested.
The video is not just an important piece of evidence. The video is why we're talking about this case. The video is why these people are being prosecuted. As you mentioned, these folks committed this crime. They killed Ahmaud Arbery months before they were taken into custody and months before they were charged with murder. If this video had not been released, I seriously question whether this case would be going to trial, whether these people would have been charged with any crime at all. So it is absolutely pivotal. That's why we saw the state talk about it in opening statements. They played a part of it in opening statements, and I expect every witness that had anything to do with this incident will be asked questions about that video so they can remind the jury what happened. They can show them in real time what happened in this case, because it is such a strong piece of evidence.
Marie, is this video the smoking gun in your opinion?
I believe it is the smoking gun. It shows exactly what happened. It shows that they pursued him. It shows that they instigated the contact, and now they're using self-defense as a defense. You cannot use self-defense as a defense when you are the one who instigated the whole contact. And they're claiming that they were in fear of their lives, but you have 2 people with guns, 1 man without, and another man with a vehicle that he's using as a deadly weapon, who already stated that he hit him with the vehicle. His palm print is on the car. Fibers from his t-shirt is on the truck that Mr. Bryant was driving.
Yeah, Paige.
The video is the smoking gun.
Yeah, thanks, Marie. Paige, what stands out to you in this case so far, based on what we've heard?
It's not any piece of evidence. It's not the testimony of the witnesses. It's the jury. I mean, I've always thought this case was going to come down to who's on this jury, because as we saw during 2.5 weeks of jury selection, most people see this video, they see murder. But there were a handful of people who were questioned during jury selection who saw this video and saw self-defense. So you've got to be concerned as the prosecution or the defense by what the jury thinks about this video. And whatever they thought about it before they showed up for trial is what they're going to think about it during the trial. So while the evidence is important, it's critical, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to who's on the jury.
Marie, question for you. Based off of what Mr. Page said, actually, Mr. Page, maybe I should direct this question to you. You said that some jurors saw this video as self-defense. Is that based on the suspect and the jury, the racial makeup of the jury? Do you believe that they would have felt it were the same type of situation if Ahmaud Arbery were white?
Well, we were not getting reports of who exactly was answering the questions. I mean, as you probably saw, cameras were not allowed in during jury selection. So I didn't see the race of the individuals who answered the questions in a way that favored the defense. But I would certainly have reason to believe that based on the demographics of this community, the fact that it's 70+% white, that the individuals who saw the video, the way the McMichaels wanted them to see it, were likely similar demographically to the McMichaels. So I don't know their race, I don't know the individual, but I do know that at least one of those individuals was struck for cause, but that left on at least one or two who would look at this and did not immediately see a crime. And that's got to be concerning to the prosecution.
Yeah, Marie, what's your response?
At the end of the day, we only hope that they will follow the letter of the law, listen to all the evidence, and render an impartial verdict.
All right. Last question for you both. What can we expect as we move forward? Paige?
Who's answering this question?
Actually, both of you, but we'll keep it in order. So, Paige, we'll go to you, and Marie, we'll have you wrap.
Sure. Again, I think we'll hear more from the local law enforcement officers today. They will get into medical evidence at some point, perhaps tomorrow. Medical examiner will testify as to the exact cause of death. There will likely be some witnesses from the neighborhood, Satilla Shores, to talk about, whether there were a lot of break-ins, whether that was really an issue or not. I think the prosecution will wait until the end of the trial to call the GBI agents. And those were the state law enforcement officers who stepped in months after the incident, who actually made the arrest very quickly and brought the case forward. So I think that's how the prosecution's case will play out.
Yeah, and they stepped in after that video was released. Marie, do you want to wrap us?
I agree. I agree with his assessment in that they're going to systematically take apart the defense's defense. They're working on it now, because all the testimony that they're presenting, they're showing that there was no crime committed. They're detailing the chase with the words of one of the defendants with his own mouth, saying, we cornered him, we hit him, he was tired, he was trying to catch his breath. They're showing all the elements of all the crimes that they're being charged with: the murder, the false imprisonment, the assault, and they will systematically take apart the defense's theory of the case by the time the defense is presenting their own case.
Paige, Marie, thank you both for joining us. Appreciate your time. All right, listen up, parents. Just because the COVID-19 supply chain problems are hitting toy stores hard doesn't mean it's all kid stuff.
Huge order in February, and it just shipped a couple weeks